Next up is Blythe Morrow presenting how to write a kick-ass anything. And yes, I said ass on live television. So take it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Blythe Morrow. For those of you who don't know me, I'm like the sole marketing person in the SQL Server community. Sometimes it's a little lonely, but it's always fun. I specialize in data platform marketing, and I love SQL Server. I just happen to be the person who loves to write. I was fortunate enough to know from an early age, probably in high school, that I wanted to be a writer for my career. And I went straight into PR and ended up at PASS. So I've been in the SQL community for 11 years. I've done 10 summits, if you can believe it. This will be my 11th this year. And I now own Papersword B2B, which is a marketing agency. And we specialize in helping companies that work with data tell their stories and generate leads. So that's me. I'm really lucky because my closest friends are the most brilliant technical people in the freaking world, right? So, I like to think that I add a little bit of value by contributing my sharp pen, which is my passion. So let's go ahead and get started. I hope you're all on Slack. Please go over to the GroupBy channel, ask questions of anything I'm presenting. I'm gonna hang out until about noon PST, so that's 3 o'clock Eastern. But you can always tweet me, and please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm trying to share relevant, cool content on LinkedIn, and you can ask me any questions anytime. I'm totally open. So I just want to level set in terms of what this session is, because I have like an hour to teach you how to write a kick-ass anything, which is not a ton of time. So I've really designed this course to be a 200 to 300 level business communication session. So this is not the difference between 2 and 2 and the different tenses in English. I'm hoping that you guys know how to read and write fluently in English. And I'm not gonna do a bunch of grammar stuff. Just like when you learned how to write a stored procedure for the first time. When someone was teaching you that in a classroom or on a webinar, it wasn't the same as when you actually tried to do it, right? And so there are a lot of really great grammar sessions and grammar courses out there. I know a lot of you are worried about the quality of the grammar of your writing. So I recommend you take those. Just like you would invest in your T-SQL skills, invest in your writing skills, because it helps persuade and engage. And also because this is writing, some of it is going to be definitive, but a lot of it's subjective, right? I've been in marketing and I've been writing professionally for a long time. So I like to think that my experience counts for a lot, but if you hear something and you're like, hey, that's not right, chances are what I'm saying might just not work for you. So with that said, I'm going to break this session into 2 pieces. The first is going to be kind of an internal communication lesson, and the second is going to be external. So the first is when you're writing for one person, or like one-to-one or one to a few, and you can think about these as like email communication. I'm going to talk emails and memos and letters. Right? I'm going to talk difficult communication pieces. So when things get hard, right? When you have kind of this like personal, emotional reaction to what you're writing, whether you're negotiating for a raise, complaining about, or warning a manager about a project, or whether you have an HR issue, I'm going to help you, give you a framework to work through that. And then I'm going to talk about how to write about yourself, which is the hardest thing to do. How to write a cover letter, how to write a LinkedIn bio, how to write the about the author that you would attach to a past session description. And then we're going to talk external communication, which is also called marketing. I know a lot of you guys have blogs. Some of you may have websites. I've built my entire career learning about this stuff. So it's hard to just kind of give you a, a bulleted list and say, now you're a marketing expert, but I'm going to make it a little bit easier for you to write for web and to write for public consumption. So the first thing you want to do when you want to have an impact for your writing is you want to increase readability, right? When you send an email to someone, you want people to freaking read it, right? I don't know if you've ever been in, like, if you ever sent an email and then you're in a meeting a week later and somebody asks you a question that you blatantly, like, just completely outlined in a memo or an email. I hate that. I mean, it's a pet peeve of mine, right? It's kind of like, read my freaking emails. So I think the most important thing is to persuade and engage in an email and make things consumable for the person reading it. Always think about the person who's reading it. So let's say, for example, you send an email and there are 3 people on the thread. What you want to do is you want to assume the reader has ADD. I know. We're in kind of that ADD generation, right? So we think that what we're writing is so important, but your manager's checking that at the line in Starbucks. They're getting up in the morning, they're checking the email. So you need to kind of assume that they're gonna, like, try to read something while they're sitting in a GroupBy session. I know you're checking your email right now. It's all good. You do you. You've got work to do, but listen to me while you're doing it. I think so. There are some tricks here that you can use to inform the reader that this is going to be a longer email, and to chunk the information so that it gets read. So So when you're writing this email, when you're assuming that the reader has ADD, there are 3 things I'd like you to do. First, you're writing something that's pretty important. Just put in the subject line in brackets that it's a long email. That way, if your manager is, again, in the Starbucks line, maybe they'll check it later. If you have someone that you need an action from, right? If you need someone to reply to you before you can move forward, if you need someone to choose something or to schedule a meeting, right? I bold their names. So I'll be writing something and then I bold their names and then I say, can you please select one of the 3 choices from below? And then the third thing that I like to do is I use a ton of headings and subheadings. I kind of write memos like I write web copy, right, where you have H1s and H2s and H3s and bolded text and underlined things, because it really helps people consume. And if they don't have time and they just need to scan your emails, they're going to get the most important part. They're going to read the headings. So these are kind of 4 pieces that I use when I'm persuading and engaging in email. And you'll notice that only one of them is really focused on grammar. So if you don't know the difference between active and passive voice, I strongly recommend that you just do a quick Google search and become familiar with it, because our brains, especially for English-speaking people, okay, our brains are set up for our sentences to be subject, verb, or subject, predicate, right, which is also verb. So we say, I'm going swimming, I'm going. Right? So if you flip it around and you write in passive voice and you're not either a politician or a professor, then you lose people through your writing and you lose the ability to engage them, and then they won't read your emails or your memos. So if you say, I have to flip it. The book was read by me instead of I read a book. That is really impactful, right? Verbs up front, subject, verb, always. And if you just kind of practice that, like, what's the subject of what I'm talking about and what's the action that subject is taking, then I think your writing, the quality of your writing will get a heck of a lot better. And know the differences between the 2s. Just look it up. Okay. All right. So next. So I want to talk about the really tough conversations, and we're building on this. From the email conversation, because a lot of times these tough things are done in email. Sometimes they're done in letter format, but ultimately what I'm talking about is when you have to put something in writing. I think the most, first of all, this is really easy to do. I think we get personally wrapped up, right? We kind of have these emotional reactions to needing to ask for a raise, or having to complain or report a coworker, or having an HR issue for whatever that is. There's this personal tension that we have, and then we reflect that in our writing because we don't know where to start. But there's really a formula to being able to have a tough conversation and put something in writing. And so the first thing is to always think about who you're writing to. So let's say, for example, you're working on a huge migration project. You're in the middle of it, you're racing towards a deadline, and you have someone on your team that is not pulling their weight, and that is making it so that you're not going to meet your deadline and you're going to be over budget. What do? You need to report this person. You need to tell your manager this, and you want to do it in writing because you don't want this to come down on your head. This is just a random example that is an exact example of something that I am going to show you. So when you send your manager an email, or when you put this in writing, you need to do a couple things. The first is you need to think about the business. So when we say keep it professional, what does that mean? You're going to be professional in that you're not going to talk about how this person, chews loudly at their desk. You're going to talk about how they're disruptive to the team and how that impacts the business, right? You're talking, when you're complaining, or I hate the word complaining, when you're reporting someone, you're reporting because there's a business outcome of the action that's being taken right now. And it's the same when you're asking for a raise, right? There's a business outcome to your company not paying you what they should pay you, because you're going to get the F out, right? And so if you're having more impact than what they're giving you, and they're not recognizing that value, there's a consequence to that. And so you need to keep it high level, right? The second is that you need to clarify what you want and be solution focused. Because you're database professionals, right? You hold the keys to your company's kingdom. You really are in a leadership role, whether you like it or not, truly. I mean, you are. And so a lot of your managers, your directors, your lines of business owners, they're looking to you to tell them what they need to do. Help me just make this work. What do you need? And so if you've got a problem with something in your project, if you need more money, for new software or for your new car, whatever it is, there needs to be, you need to kind of come out and say exactly what you want to happen, right? Quote a number, let the person know you want this resource off your team, et cetera, et cetera. And then the third thing is that you've got to assume that this is going to be forwarded. And so there's a fine balance between keeping something personal, right, and tailoring it to who you're talking to, and assuming it's going to be forwarded and keeping it quite professional and a little sterile. So I think that the forwarding is really important, especially if you're having an HR or a contract negotiation. It's right, because decisions, for the most part, aren't made in a silo. So I'm going to show you an example here. So this is an example tough email. I get these quite often. Because my closest friends are data architects and SQL Server consultants, I get a lot of, I need to write a really difficult email, can you help me? And so this is one that I rewrote for a dear friend of mine probably a couple weeks ago. And he was having trouble with a coworker who was getting in the way and getting distracted by critical tasks. So I wanted to just show you how you can structure these And you can pull up this recording whenever you need to write something like this, and you can kind of just use this as your framework. So this was to Todd, and what we did was we said, here's the issue. We've been engaged in files. We've been struggling to keep focus because someone always allows herself to become distracted with non-critical tasks. So this is the problem. Here's the impact it's having to the business. So they are prohibiting us from fully documenting and bulletproofing blah, 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 blah. And then here's the solution, right? If you want us to finish this project by this date with the resources you've provided, we need to get on the phone to discuss. And then there's a call to action. So make sure that even with a resignation letter, there's always a call to action. You're always punting the ball into someone else's court, because there's something about our brain and how we're wired that when you send an email and you don't have an action in any way, shape, or form, you don't, like, it almost doesn't go into memory, right? Whereas if you're asking someone to take some action, whether it's picking up the phone or even just replying and saying that they received it, which is really good for legal reasons, right? Just send me a reply, let me know you received this. It's much more likely that someone will commit this to memory. So I've got some tips here in terms of having the tough conversations. And then in this slide here, I've got an example, and you are more than welcome to use this as a framework. All right, so again, we're talking about outlining the issue, talking about the impact to the business, being solution focused in your recommendations, and then adding a call to action at the bottom, even if it's just to say, yes, I've received this email and we're working on it. I want to spend some time with my friend John. So resumes and bios. I want to spend as much time as possible with this one because this is the hardest internal communication piece to write, truly. If you have ever gone to write a cover letter and you have sat there staring at a blank screen, you're not alone. It's really hard to talk about yourself. It's hard to write a LinkedIn bio. It's hard to write kind of the bio when you're submitting your abstracts to PAS. It's hard, okay? And the reason is because we are all inflicted with this imposter syndrome. We don't want to seem bigger than we actually are, right? We don't want to be imposing. So I'm not going to teach you how to write a resume. I got to sit in on Andy Mallon's session in December on getting a GE job, and he just did such a fantastic session for DBAs. It was so good. So, and then he also links to a copy of his resume, and you're welcome to use it as a framework. So go ahead and listen to that. It's an hour-long session. It's going to be way more than I can do in an hour. It's awesome. But I'm going to talk about that cover letter and talk about how you can talk about yourself. So John reached out to me, or I reached out to John, and I said, we need to redo your bio. I don't know who did what. And he said, I'm thinking about this bio. I don't love it. It's not a senior level of a bio as I'd like, because he's the CEO of Procure SQL, and he wanted it to be more executive level. Fair enough. You're a CEO that works with CTOs. You should probably have an executive bio. So let me just see. So what I've done is, I thought about this, and I thought about how I was going to give you guys advice. And I think the best thing to do is just to give you like 4 bullet points when you're writing a bio or a cover letter of what to include and what the flow should be. And then you can just add your own, and then you can just write it yourself instead of doing kind of a tips and tricks thing. So the first thing I did, and if you kind of like follow these 4, you'll win every time. So talk about the impact that your skills have had on the world. right? So think as big as possible. What have you done? Do you manage the world's most complex data? Do you extract insights from disparate systems and create a narrative for decision makers? Are you an analytics person? Do you make enterprise level products used by the Fortune 500? Right? If you're working for Century One or for Redgate or for any of the SQL Server DBA tools, your bio is so impactful, because think about the companies that use your work every single day, right? So think as big as you can possibly think, and that's going to be your first line. You're going to just like punch them in the face with your awesomeness, right? You're just going to like make the, yeah, that's right, make the biggest impact you can make. Eugene laughing at me. Yeah. And then, so we're doing like a little inverted pyramid. This is a typical PR trick. So we're going to start as big as possible. And then for the second sentence, you're going to talk about your biggest project and outcome. So what's the biggest thing that you've done? You've managed 100 instances of SQL Server. You've run a team of 6 DBAs as a IT director. You've increased availability and uptime in by 50%. Something just like your biggest thing that you've done that makes you really proud of your career. And then you're gonna talk about what you do today. Joe is the senior DBA manager at Acme Co. And then how. Oh, I missed the third one. So how you, your community, your contributions to your community. I was thinking that's pretty slow. So Eugene is a Microsoft MVP. He runs the SQL Server user group in Fargo, Minnesota. I don't know where you
Right.
Okay.
Spot on. How did you?
And is a contributing author to SQL Server Central, right? So that's how you contribute to a community, and it really shows people that you have a life and that you have passion outside of what you do for your day job. The fourth is your title, what you have today. Eugene is a senior SQL Server BI consultant. I'm using you as an example, and
No,
I don't
it's fine.
really.
No, I'm enjoying this new persona. Like if I need to start over,
Okay.
You look a little pale, Eugene.
No, that's my webcam and the lighting. It's not me being like, how dare she call me Fargoite or Fargoite, or I don't even know what the term is for people in Fargo. Anyway, moving on.
Fargo Ian. Anyways,
Fargonista? I don't know.
And then, okay, and then how you can change the reader's life. So what can you do, right? What can you do that is going to impact the reader's business? And this is less for a LinkedIn bio and more for resume. If you want to be the data architect for Wayfair, again, I'm using Andy Mallon as an example. How are you gonna change that world? What are you gonna bring to the table? Why would they even hire you, right? And you should know that. Like you should know enough about who you're writing for, that you understand enough about their systems, and you know that your knowledge and experience can make an impact in their systems, okay? So this is what John's bio turned into, and you're welcome to go connect with him on LinkedIn and see it live. It's funny because when we were testing this yesterday, I actually changed his name to Bon Ferret, and I put like a little smiley face because he didn't want his name on it. And I'm really sad that he gave me permission to use it like this, because I was excited to talk about Bon Ferret. Anyways, so again, we're uplifting to more of an executive level bio. So data platform expert and CEO of Procure SQL. So the first sentence is this huge impact that he has on the world. So his experience leading technical teams in complex environment, making him a global expert in performance and scalability. It's huge. It's like as big as I could go. And then he's managed architectures with up to 1,000 servers and is known for his expertise in SQL Server related technologies. So the biggest thing he's done, right? He speaks at conferences around the world on database strategy and topics related to performance tuning, developing, and cloud computing. So that's what he does in his spare time. That's how he contributes to the community. He's speaking later today, and you're welcome to come to that session as well. And then a little bit more about him: certified MCSE data platform, former MVP, and then what he does today. He's the principal at ProcureSQL. So I followed that framework to a T. So whenever you're stuck, if you were building an abstract, if you want to rewrite your bio, follow these 4 or 5 steps. 5 if it's a resume cover letter and you're applying to a company. Go to 4 if it's just for a bio for your speakers. And it'll be kick-ass. Send it to me if you need to rewrite. No, seriously, just send it to me. It's all good. So I'm half-time now. I'm going to move over to external communication. Daniel, were there any questions about the internal things? Because I don't have Slack up. Is there anything?
So Robert asked, Blythe, what is your opinion on stating upfront that you want to aim to accomplish? On stating upfront what you want to aim to accomplish with your communication, like, quote, I want to convince you to buy more RAM, unquote.
That's a really great question. So I always go back to the reader, right? Know your audience. I think if you know that your company or the company that you're trying to convince and persuade, they have budget for it and they're having specific pain points around around slow servers or memories or deadlocks or what have you, and they're looking for a solution. If you email them and say, I want to convince you to buy more RAM, here's why, I think that would work. If you don't know, then I think you should go softer, right? You should go with, you are having this business problem, and here's the solution that I offer. It's just like, does the reader know that they have a problem or not, right?
But you can use it for comedic effect as well. I think Eric Darling has something on his Twitter profile like, I fix slow servers in exchange for money or something like that. I thought that was kind of funny.
I like that. Well, and so so now you're getting into external communication or marketing. So you're talking about a tagline. Yeah. Right. So, it's not a completely different topic, but you need to know who you're talking to and then be very, very clear with what you do and how you can solve that person's pain points. Mm-hmm. So Eric is very smart in that he's made what he does into such a small, simple thing. You have pain in your SQL Server, I'll fix it. But I'll charge you for it. Of course you will, right? Eugene, was it you that I was like gonna build a tagline for?
You're muted.
I am muted. Yeah, you still owe me for that.
I
cobbled together a half-butted one for the time being because yeah, I saw you talking about StoryBrand and I started listening to it and I'm like, all right, I distill business intelligence into bite-sized chunks and people were like, is this about food? I don't get it. And so and so right now I've changed it, like I make BI approachable and accessible, but yes, I'm worst case I'll find you at Summit and be like, I need a good tagline.
Well, and actually, you know what, I'm getting off topic right now, but on Sunday I'm flying to Nashville and I'm doing the whole StoryBrand training with Dawn. So you know, I'll give your tagline some thoughts while I'm in that space and thinking tagline, and I apologize.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, you got it.
All right, focus.
Okay. External communication, AKA marketing. So I know a lot of you guys have blogs and a lot of you guys have websites. And so I'm going to just, I'm just going to break down, do a one-on-one session of how to build messaging for marketing, and then give you, Daniel's laughing at me, and then give you a framework. Again, I'm all about giving you frameworks. You can just throw it on a OneNote. When you're writing a web page, when you happen to find yourself needing to write a blog, you can think about and use my framework, and then hopefully it'll give you a really great starting point, because a lot of this is just starting. So so I'm going to be a little controversial on this by saying nobody reads web content. I think that I think we always need to assume that your reader, whether you're writing a blog or writing a web page, is not combing your website word by word. They're not reading completely down to the bottom, and they're not, if they're not reading it like they would read a book. We just don't consume information publicly that way anymore. Everything is, well, a lot of things are done on mobile, and everything is on the go. And I know you guys have like 16 tabs open in your Chrome right now, or your DuckDuckGo. I mean, and you're doing a whole bunch of things while you're listening to me. So if you assume that nobody is reading your web copy, that nobody's going to read all the way through your blog post, they're hunting for the information they want, right? They're looking for something specific, and it's your job to make it easy for them to find it. And honestly, a lot of marketing people are guilty of not recognizing this, right? We write these massive, massive posts. We write these really long paragraphs. We're trying to get our keywords. Don't even get me started on SEO. That's like a whole other topic. And so we don't write for the person who's reading it. And so external communications is a lot like internal communications in that you need to know who you're writing for, right? You need to think about the person that you're creating this content for, and then persuade and engage them in a way that works for them, not for you. So again, if you treat web visitors like human beings who like to read, then that's wrong. So I'm going to just go out on a limb and say that you should treat your readers like wild animals, and know that they're hunting for something. They're hungry for information, and it's your job to give them what they want as quickly as possible. And so we're going to use an inverted pyramid one more time. So that's where you put the most important information up front, and then you bring it down and add details, add benefits, add features, and then bring it down to a point. This is difficult to do because you're putting as much information up top as possible. And so you're having to be very, very concise with what you're saying. But it's the way to do it. The second thing, for those of you who blog and who add code to your blog posts and your web pages, you need to make that source code information stupidly easy to find and very easy to download and consume. That's going to bring readers back. I love the nod. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks. That's going to bring readers back. And if you're trying to generate leads, I'm not going to get too much into lead generation, but for you consultants out there, you should have at least 2 contact points. So you probably have one in the header, but put one somewhere in the blog as well, a call to action at the bottom, or if you have a WordPress website and you can kind of, you can add a call to action in the middle, that would be, or on the sidebar, that would be great too. Just if somebody has a question, let them answer it, right? Why not? So this one's for you, Eugene. I just really don't think that you should try to be clever or cute. Right. I think that there's a place for it. Right. If we at some point want to do a digital ad campaign, or if we want to do a bunch of flyers or some kind of direct mail that's around, you having a booth at Summit, we can get kind of cute and clever with your stand-up banners. But when you're talking about external digital communication, you just need to eliminate all confusion. Right. And you confuse, you lose, right? So just be very, very clear and articulate with what you're trying to communicate. I know. No, it's all good. I've tried to, and some people can get away with it, right? Brent Ozar actually does a really great job of with his critical care product when him and Tara and Eric were working together about server health, and it was all about health.
Right.
But there aren't many companies that can do it. You just need a level of marketing and communication skill that just don't.
Well, and even him, like for his tagline, he's not cute at all. His tagline is he makes SQL Service more more faster and more reliable. Like that's.
Yeah.
A quick question while we're from a quick question from Lars. What's going to bring readers back? Parenthesis potential attention deficit here.
What's going to bring readers back?
Yes, to a blog, I suppose.
So they've consumed some of your content and they've gone away, and now you want to bring them back. That's what you're asking. So there are a couple things you can do. The first is you need to know your reader. So if you have a SQL Server blog, let's say you're a performance tuning expert or T-SQL expert, don't write stuff about Tableau, right? Or don't write stuff about data warehousing. Really try to carve out a niche and then leverage your keywords. So build kind of your keyword list of what people would be searching for, and then like really, really build clusters of content, like, and really engaging content around one topic. That's going to bring readers back, and that's going to get your RSS subscriptions. Yeah. Cool. So I've got a couple, this is kind of tips and tricks. I don't know how else to do it. I think that when you're writing blogs and you're writing web pages, even if you're sharing on social, you just need to chunk information, and this goes back to your email memos too, right? So you need to make things consumable for people and assume that they're scanning the content and then drilling in once they find what they're looking for. They are not starting at the top and reading every word until they get to the bottom. That's not how we consume information these days. Okay, we're scrollers, and then we go back to when we find the information. So 4 sentences max. Again, if you're doing a real deep dive, if you're over 11 to 1,500 words for a blog article and you're really going deep, you can extend this, but make sure that you chunk your information and use as plain of language as possible. I recommend that you write for about a grade 9 reading level. So first couple years of high school. When you're writing business communication for internal, like internal writing, you can use like senior level high school, maybe first year university type business language, and that works. But when you're doing external, it's gotta be as simple of language as possible. I say use short sentences, which is true because I've seen a lot of SQL Server blog content that's just like these long scrolling sentences with lots of commas, because you're trying to talk about a lot of things. Try to keep subject verb up front, right? Don't use passive tense. Keep your sentences short, but keep their structure varied. Put a 4-word sentence in between 2 long list sentences just to give the reader's brain a break, right? Give me a break. Give me just one short, snappy thing in between something a really, really intense technical discussion. Please don't use passive voice. Please don't use passive voice. Have you Googled it yet? Does everybody know? I trust you. Avoid needless repetition. So repetition is difficult, and because our brains are wired when we're initially writing something, we explain and then we explain some more and then we explain some more, and sometimes you just have to write it and you just write 2,000 words and then you just condense back to 1,000. Optimal SEO blog post is 1,100 words, by the way. If I write a blog post for our clients, and it's not 1,100 words, Misha sends it back to me. And so that's a really good benchmark. And then for your person, or not the tense, but like the person you use, first, second, third, we're going to use second person. Okay, so you're going to use the word you. You can use first person, so you can say I do this and you do this if you want, but second person is normally the best. Try to avoid third. So these are kind of the external comms cheat sheet. I have another resource here. Eugene and I did mention building a story brand. If you are building a blog, if you do have a website, if you do have a company, well, you should hire PaperSword. But if you want to do this on your own, you want to build your own messaging, I strongly recommend this book. This is the best book I read in 2018. And I read about 40 books a year. I just loved it. It teaches you how to message for an audience, how to eliminate confusion, clarify your message, and really help people understand what you do so that they're not wasting your time, kicking the tires, and you're getting to the people you want to get to. So I've got this, I've got like a messaging framework here. I built something based off of StoryBrand. It's at brandstory.paperswordb2b.com. It's a PDF and it builds on this building a story brand. I think there are some components missing, especially for folks in our industry. So if you want that, you can go ahead and download it. I will add it to the comments in the YouTube recording so that you can click right through if you're listening to this after the live session. And I really hope that it makes marketing more fun for you, truly. So were there any questions? It's hard to like take 20 minutes and teach how to write for marketing. So I really hope that I gave you, I'll go back to this. I really hope that I gave you actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and go back to this. I really hope that I gave you guys some great tips. Are there any questions? Do you want to go deeper in any of this? If you have any lingering questions about how to write or any medium, please just reach out to me. I'm always happy to help. I love helping people tell their stories. It's kind of why I do what I do. But this is the end of my presentation. Thank you.